how we can compare dollar value over time and across locations. Okay, so let me go to BLS website. So after giving you some basic idea about what is CPI and how to calculate CPI, right? So for example, let me open New York City. This number in January 2020, 282, what does that mean? What can you think of CPI? You can think of CPI like this. So in January 2020, the CPI in New York City is roughly 280. I don't want to put in bold. So you can think of CPI as you need to pay $285, right, to buy a decent quality of life in America. That's intuition. So that's not the scientific definition for CPI, but that's how, as a beginner, how you can think of consumer price index, how you can think of that number. So for example, if I want to buy a decent quality of life in America, in New York City, you have to pay $285. In another city, for example, let me open Philadelphia. In February 2020, right, to buy the same decent quality of life in America, you only need to pay roughly $260 compared with 282 in New York City. So that means to maintain the same quality of life or living standard in America, it is cheaper to live in Philadelphia than to live in New York City. Okay, so this leads to our next topic. So compare dollar value over time and across locations. So the basic idea is, so if you have $100 in your pocket like this one, with Ben Franklin here, right? 100. So if you have cash here, this number 100, it is so-called face value or nominal value of money. That is just the number printed on your money. It's 100, right? That's called the face value or nominal value. So here, this money may be printed this year in 2020. So you may have question like this. So is 100 US dollar USD in the year 2020 the same as 100 US dollar in the year, for example, 1995? Even if you don't know anything about economics, right? Just by using common sense, I think everybody should know it's different. So for the same $100 bill today in this year, 2020, right, is totally different from the $100 bill in the year 1995. What's the difference? The number is the same, 100, right? But what has changed? What has changed? Because over time, everything is getting what? More expensive, right? Because of inflation. So your money is losing power over time. Why? Because everything is getting more expensive. So over time, your money, the same piece of paper, this is $100, you can only buy less and less stuff over time because everything is getting more expensive over time. So this leads to a different concept, so-called the real value, or the real power of your money. So how to get the real power or real value of your money? Also, this is related to the so-called spending power of your money. How powerful is your $100 bill? For example, in Houston, Texas. So how powerful is your $100 bill in Houston, Texas? So we can get it here. So for example, you have $100, right? We divide your face value, the face value for money by what? By the consumer price index in Houston, Texas. So what's the latest number in Houston, Texas? Let me go to Houston here. The latest number, I only care about the integer, 230, right? Here. So what is 100 divided by 230? So that is, the answer is 0.4348. This is how powerful your money is. So your money, how powerful money is in Houston, Texas for the $100 bill is 0.4348. Now, let me repeat this question for different location. How powerful is your $100 bill not in Houston, Texas, this time in New York City? New York. How powerful is your $100 bill? The same piece of paper. The idea is, again, we divide the face value of our money by what? By the consumer price index in that particular city. This time is New York City, New York. What's the number here? The latest number, 282, right? For New York City. Divided by 100 divided by 282. So what's the answer? I need a calculator. So the answer is 0.3546. So you can see this number is smaller than this number, right? So that means for the same $100 bill, it is more powerful. Your $100 bill is more powerful in Houston than in New York City in terms of what? In terms of spending power. That means you can, for the same piece of paper, this is $100 bill, right? You can get more stuff in Houston, Texas than in New York City, New York. Okay. So here you have a question. So for example, compare dollar value across locations. In this case, time is fixed. Okay, so this question is, for example, 100 US dollars in Houston, Texas is equivalent to how much money? In New York City in the year 2019, right? So making 100 US dollars in Houston, Texas is equivalent to making how much money? Sorry, there's a typo here. In New York City in the year 2019. How to do this type of question? We are going to recycle this formula. So for example, this equivalent refers to what? The spending power, how powerful your money is, right? So $100 in Houston, Texas, divided by what's the CPI for Houston? Okay, let me do it like this. So we need to know some CPI information. Let me insert a table. So we have two cities, right? Houston and New York City. So we need to figure out the 2019 CPI information, annual CPI number for these two cities. So what's the number for Houston? This is Houston, right? In the year 2019, the CPI is 228. How about New York City? This is New York City, right? The year 2019. And I'm looking at annual, 278. This number. Okay. So now we can figure out this question by using consumer price index. So how to do that? 100 US dollar in Houston divided by CPI in Houston, 228, right? Equals how much money? I don't know. I put 3 question marks, placeholder, divided by, we know the CPI in New York City, 278, right? So next, we have to figure out those 3 question marks. So this is what? This is the typical one equation, one unknown problem. So 3 question marks equals what? $100, right? In Houston divided by 228 Houston Consumer Price Index. I need to move this number to the left-hand side. So that means I have to multiply 278 on both sides. Here, right? And I need to use a calculator to figure out what is 100 divided by 228, then multiplies 278. The answer is $121.93. So that means in the year 2019, making 100 US dollars, right, in Houston is equivalent to making how much money? $121.93 in New York City. This is so-called how we can compare dollar value across locations. Keep in mind, time is fixed. We use 2019 CPI, right? And a straightforward application for this analysis, for example, suppose you work as a registered nurse. Another example. You work as a nurse making how much money in San Diego, California? Remember, yeah, if I remember correctly, a typical registered nurse makes about $86,000 in San Diego, right, in the year 2019. And this salary, it making $86,000 in San Diego, is equivalent to making how much money in, so for example, Orlando, Florida. So the question is, making 86K in San Diego is equivalent to making how much money in Orlando, Florida. Again, we can answer this question using Consumer Price Index. So let me recycle this previous table here. This time, let me do some change. San Diego, and we have Orlando. 2019 CPI, right? I need to find out CPI information. Now let me go to this web page. Here, let me open San Diego. And we have Orlando here. We don't have Orlando. So I'm going to use Tampa Bay as a substitute. So the 2019 CPI for San Diego is $299. That means it costs you lots of money to live in San Diego. How about Tampa Bay? I use Tampa Bay as a substitute for Orlando since I don't see Orlando on this website. $228. So you see here from CPI, right? The CPI in San Diego is much higher than that in Orlando, Florida. That just means it costs you more money to live in San Diego, California than in Orlando, Florida. In this case, actually, it's Tampa Bay. Okay, so back to my question. So making $86,000 in San Diego in the year 2019, right, is equivalent to making how much money in Orlando, Florida? How to do this question? So what's the real power or spending power of a salary in San Diego? So that is $86,000, right? Divided by what? the San Diego Consumer Price Index 299 equals, that means equivalent. How much money in Orlando? I don't know. I use question marks as a placeholder for a moment, divided by the CPI in Orlando, right? And how about those question marks? Again, this is one equation, one unknown problem. I need to move 228 to the other side of the equation so I can figure out the question marks. So that means I can simply multiply 228 on both sides of the equation, right? So what do I get here? 86K divided by 299 multiplies 228 equals, I need a calculator. The answer is, let me round it to our integer. So here, this is the answer. So that means if you work as a registered nurse in San Diego, right, making 86K in San Diego is equivalent to making how much money in Florida? Is equivalent to making roughly 66K. So you see the huge difference, right? Why? Because everything, I won't say everything, on average stuff is cheaper in Florida than California, particularly San Diego. Okay, so this is how to compare dollar value across locations. I can modify my question here. Compare dollar value instead of across locations, across time. Now location is fixed. So for example, again, suppose you have $100 in Houston, Texas, right? In the year this time, 2019, is equivalent to how much money in the same city, Houston, Texas? You can see the location is fixed, right? Houston versus Houston, but in a different year. In the year, for example, in the year 2010. So $100 bill in Houston in the year 2019 is equivalent to how much money in Houston, Texas in the year 2010? How to do this question? Again, we can use consumer price index. Again, let me copy this table first. So now our location is fixed, right? Houston. But how do I look for consumer price index number? We need to find the Houston CPI in the year 2019 CPI and 2010 CPI. What's the 2019 CPI for Houston? Let me open Houston here. Let's look at this annual column, right? In the year 2019, that's 228. So what's the Houston CPI in the year 2010? Year 2010 annual. This number, 194. Okay. Again, we are going to use this equality. Okay. Suppose you have $100 in the year 2019 Houston, right? The spending power or the real power of $100 in Houston in 2019 is 100 divided by 2019 CPI, 228. It's equivalent to equality. How much money in the year 2010 in Houston? How much money? I don't know. So I use question marks as a placeholder divided by 2010 CPI, 194, right? So again, one equation, one unknown. I need to figure out those question marks. Question marks equals $100 divided by 228 multiplies 194. Again, I need to use a calculator. The answer is roughly $85. So that means if you make 100 US dollars in Houston, Texas in the year 2019, right? $100 in Houston in 2019 is only equivalent to $85 in Houston, same location in the year 2010. As from this question you can see, over time, right, for the same $100 bill, it is losing the nominal power. The face value the same, 100, you see the number here, right? But over time, your money is losing what? Is losing spending power. Why? Again, because over time, things are getting more and more expensive. So that's the straightforward application of CPI. So we can compare dollar value across time. We can also compare dollar value across locations with the other factor fixed.